Hey everyone. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, even though we're starting a bit later than usual. I really appreciate your flexibility, and I want to reassure you that this is just a one-time change, and moving forward, we'll be sticking to our regular 7 p.m. time slot. Life happens, but your trust in me and this show is so important, and I'm committed to making sure that we stay consistent. I'm excited for tonight's episode, so let's dive right in. No guest tonight. Instead, we have a presentation and an episode that I'm riding solo on. So, I want to welcome you to this episode of Sexpertise. And if you haven't met me before, I am your host and favorite sexpert, the Erica Rivera. Today, we're going to explore the complex issues surrounding the allegations against Sean Diddy Combs, particularly focusing on the themes of power dynamics, consent, and the broader implications for sexual health education. This case brings to light critical questions about how relationships operate when power is unequal and the effects of this can have, what effects this can have on personal autonomy. As we dive deeper into this topic, we're going to aim to provide a nuanced perspective on the serious allegations that are out there right now and their impact on individuals and the industry at large. So if I tend to look down a little bit, it's just to switch slides. Because first, I want to look at our timeline of allegations. So to provide essential context, let's review the timeline of events related to Cassie Ventura and Sean Diddy Combs. Their professional relationship began in 2007 when Cassie was introduced as a budding artist under Diddy's Bad Boy Records. The romantic involvement became more public around 2013, leading to years of speculation about their tumultuous relationship. However, it wasn't until 2023, so quite recently, that Cassie filed a lawsuit against Diddy alleging years of physical violence, emotional abuse, and intimidation. So that's all right here. This timeline is going to illustrate not only the duration of these power dynamics, but also it highlights the challenges that survivors face when deciding when to come forward. And it raises the question, how can we create an environment where individuals feel safe to share their stories without fear of retribution or disbelief? Well, here's the role of power in relationships. So here I have a definition for power imbalance and coercion, which is what you're going to see a lot of when it comes to these allegations. So again, central to this discussion is the concept of power imbalance, a dynamic that can significantly complicate issues of consent. Diddy, as a powerful figure in the music industry, he held considerable influence over Cassie's career trajectory. This power dynamic is particularly relevant when discussing how individuals navigate consent within such relationships. Coercion, which is the other word I have over there, can be subtle and may not always involve physical force. That's important to remember because we always think about the physical abuse, but coercion doesn't always manifest that way. It can manifest as emotional manipulation, threats, or even financial control. Understanding that consent is not a one-time agreement, but rather a continuous process requiring ongoing communication is vital. This case underscores the necessity of recognizing and addressing power dynamics in all forms of relationships, particularly in environments where one party may have significantly more influence. In this case, Diddy did have that social power. So moving on to the key allegations. So Cassie's lawsuit against Diddy contains several serious allegations, including claims of physical violence, sexual coercion, and emotional abuse spanning over at least a decade. One particularly alarming claim is that Diddy exerted control over her career and financial independence. And that's something we also don't talk about enough is financial abuse. That is a thing. So these allegations paint a troubling picture of how power dynamics can be manipulated to maintain control over another individual. It is essential to recognize that these claims not only represent Cassie's personal experiences, but it also reflects a broader societal issue regarding the treatment of individuals that are in a vulnerable position. The specifics of this particular lawsuit reveals the complexity of navigating relationships in high pressure environments, and it highlights the importance of fostering a culture that prioritizes consent and mutual respect. And honestly, Cassie's story is not the only one. There are also some headlines regarding rumors that include Justin Bieber, and I want to talk about that as well. The music industry is notorious for its speculative nature, and Sean Diddy Combs has often found himself entangled in these narratives. So, like I already mentioned, notably Justin Bieber has been mentioned in various allegations and rumors that suggest he too has faced predatory behavior from powerful figures in the industry, including Diddy. While these claims have not been substantiated in court, they still illustrate a broader pattern of abuse that affects many, he's not the only one, many young artists who are vulnerable to exploitation. Bieber's experiences raise critical questions about the environment in which a young talent operates. So, in an industry that often prioritizes fame and fortune over the well being of its artists, the lack of protective measures can lead to very, very dangerous dynamics. Now, allegations of Diddy's treatment toward younger artists also underscores the need for more accountability. I cannot express that enough. Accountability, 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 and transparency in the music business. Regardless of your status, you need to be held accountable for your behavior. So these speculative claims highlight the necessity for change within the industry. Survivors like Bieber, who may have encountered manipulation and coercion, they need support systems that empower them to speak out. It is crucial that we advocate for protective measures for emerging artists, fostering an atmosphere where they can thrive without fear, once again, of retaliation or abuse. That's normally the fear is, if I speak up, what could happen to me? What is the consequence of speaking up? So we have to make sure that we're fostering the type of atmosphere where anybody can thrive without that fear and be able to openly talk about their story. So by discussing these allegations openly, we contribute to that dialogue. It not only seeks justice for the individual victims, but it also calls for systemic reform to prevent future abuse. Now, let's talk about the psychological impact of sexual trauma. This picture to me says it all. The psychological impact of sexual trauma is often overlooked in conversations about any kind of abuse. We focus so much on the event itself and not on the aftermath. Survivors may experience a range of long-term emotional consequences, including depression and anxiety and trust issues. These effects can actually permeate various aspects of life, affecting not only personal relationships, but also professional interactions. Let me say that again. it can affect not just your personal relationships, but your professional interactions. So it's vital to recognize that the ramifications of trauma extend beyond the individual event, often leading to significant mental health challenges. Addressing these psychological impacts is essential for creating effective support systems for survivors. So, my last slide and this slide go hand in hand. We need those support systems in order for people to feel comfortable coming forward. The best way to create that effective support system is to understand the psychological impacts. So here you go. And as you can see, I included difficulty maintaining relationships. That's a big one. Sometimes I get couples that come into my office or a partner that comes into my office, and they are going through a struggle with their partner, whether they're on the verge of divorce, unable to communicate, not having any type of intimacy, etc. 9 times out of 10, it's a communication issue, but it's stemmed from a past sexual trauma or some kind of past trauma that has impacted them and has left them unable to move forward in said relationship. So a lot of people either break up or divorce because they have a hard time maintaining a relationship due to the psychological effects from their prior trauma. And here as well, long-term emotional damage. Can't say this enough. So by fostering a greater understanding of these issues, we can work towards a society that supports healing and empowers individuals to reclaim their autonomy, because that's the bottom line, right? So let me move on to my next slide. I really wanted to touch base on this too. Kim Porter and her legacy. So Kim Porter was a significant figure in Diddy's life and the mother of 3 of his children. And she passed away unexpectedly in 2018. While her death is not directly related to current allegations, ... it still adds a layer of complexity to the narrative surrounding Diddy. Kim was known for her work as a model, an actress, and her legacy is one of grace and strength. Her story serves as a reminder of the unseen struggles that individuals may face in high-pressure relationships, particularly those involving public figures. I read her book. There's rumors stating that this book isn't even her story, but Kim's Lost Words. I purchased this book. I read it front to back in one single setting. And there's just so much packed into so little, because it is a very quick and easy read, but she goes over some of those struggles as a public figure behind the scenes and what she went through. Now, she's mentioned Biggie in there, Tupac, and some other public figures. And it goes to show we just never know what's going on behind closed doors. Whether or not the book is truthful, I don't know. Allegedly, it's her book, it's her story, it's a memoir that she wrote before she passed away. But there has been some social media posts that have surfaced online of her own children saying that it's not her book. So I'm not sure. But I do feel that it's still a good tool to have. So if you get the opportunity to purchase this book, read this book, it is still a great tool. Kim's life and untimely death really highlights the importance of understanding the emotional toll that such relationships can have. And it reminds us that behind the headlines, they are real people with real struggles. And it's crucial, in my opinion, to honor her memory while acknowledging the broader implications of relationships that she was a part of. Now, what does this look like for the future of sexual health education in media. First of all, let's go over this. 81% of women and 43% of men have reported going through some kind of sexual harassment or sexual assault in their lifetime. That's a pretty big statistic and percentage, especially for this type of crime that isn't normally spoken about. So a lot of people have yet to come forward about their crime. Therefore, this number might be a lot bigger. And one thing that I talk about a lot, not only on my show, but speaking engagements and so forth, and when I'm in small groups with other individuals, is prevention is key. Sexual health education is part of sexual assault prevention. So the allegations against Diddy represents a pivotal moment for sexual health education, particularly regarding how we understand and communicate about consent, as well as coercion as well. So as these discussions become more prominent in the media, it is imperative that sexual health education evolves to reflect the complexities of real-world relationships. Educational materials must include discussions on power dynamics. Like we don't talk about power dynamics and emotional manipulation. It's crazy to me. So we focus on the physical abuse, the sexual abuse, but we don't focus on power dynamics as much. And abuse really is all about control. Why we don't have comprehensive sex ed out there that includes this type of material is beyond me. But I'm telling you now, it should be there. Having that there provides individuals with the tools necessary to recognize unhealthy patterns. Why are we waiting until it's too late? We should be able to educate others on what patterns to look for in order to prevent abuse. Furthermore, this particular case emphasizes the importance of advocacy in sexual health education, empowering individuals to speak out and seek help. By developing comprehensive curricula that address these nuanced issues, only then can we really foster a more informed and resilient society. So, greater awareness, increased conversations, push for legal reform, educational media. So we should be focused on power imbalances. This is how most abuse starts. So if you want to prevent it, we should be educating on it. And I'm going to go back up here to the greater awareness and conversations. I will say that we are in an era now where we do speak up more. So I am thankful for that. In the past, a lot of individuals would not even come forward with this type of thing or have a conversation about it. So it is good that we have more conversations about it. There is more awareness about it. It's really the educational aspect where I think we're kind of lacking a little bit. So I think it's important that we advocate in this way. So today, or tonight, should I say, we explored the serious implications of these allegations against Sean Diddy Combs. Maybe you didn't see the correlation between that and sex ed, but I hope I was able to shed light on the intricacies of power, consent, and the lasting effects of trauma. So here is my call to action. Support survivors. Man, hold people accountable regardless of status. That is such a big one. We see people get away with things quite a bit. If the allegations are true about Sean Diddy Combs, he's gotten away with things for a very, very long time. It may or may not have caused certain abuse to happen, certain deaths to happen. There's just so much this is loaded. This is loaded, so I know this is not going to be the only episode that I do this on. I'm going to definitely talk about this case in the future, but because of limited time, I just wanted to focus on power and consent. And of course, the importance of ongoing consent, because you may give consent at first, but you should be able to change that. It doesn't mean you have ongoing consent. There are allegations about drug use being used in order to muddle consent as well. And, when we talk about the lasting effects of trauma, I think about some of the survivors who were at these parties or allegedly had gone through the abuse they had gone through. This is going to just rock them for life. Like, it is tough. It is really tough to get through those long-term effects from the trauma. So quite honestly, I truly believe this. I think together we can create a culture that prioritizes respect, consent, and healing, but it starts with us. It really does. And as we continue to navigate these essential conversations, it's crucial that we not only support survivors, but also advocate for comprehensive sexual health education. That is my bottom line. We must strive for a culture that prioritizes consent, respect, and accountability, ensuring that everyone feels empowered to share their stories without fear. Now, I wanted to add our resources. So that's my email. You can email the show anytime. This is our nonprofit, the National Care Foundation. So I haven't talked about the National Care Foundation really on this show just yet, and I want to talk about it today a little bit. The National Care Foundation is a nonprofit that I founded. CARE stands for Center for Advocacy, Resources, and Equity. And as a victim's advocate, we provide support services for individuals going through domestic violence or sexual assault, or really any traumatic circumstance. It does not have to be SV or DV related. So that's our mailing address there, email, website, and of course, I needed to add this in here, but this is our hotline. So if you're listening or watching right now and you or someone you know is going through ongoing abuse, make sure to call 800-656-HOPE. That is the Rape, Abuse, Incest, and National Network hotline. That is a 24/7 hotline that you have access to. So I really hope that you found this episode informative. I will definitely be doing another take on this case because, again, 26 minutes just isn't enough. But I do know that next week, our next episode, we're going to include a little special episode talking more about domestic violence versus sexual violence. But October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So we want to make sure that we have a very informative month. And I hope that you'll stay tuned for next week's episode as well. So thank you for joining me on Sexpertise. Together, we can foster meaningful discussions that contribute to a safer and more informed community. And like I always say, make sure to stay informed, stay curious, and stay safe.